Hi, this is Qasid at Instant Maths. In this video I'm going to show you how to split a fraction into its partial fractions. So what that means is we're going to take this fraction and we're going to split it into these two fractions. Okay, and we're going to use three lines here to say it's equivalent. And for that to work, what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that we were combining these two fractions, and we would say, well, if we were combining them, we need to make a common denominator, and the common denominator would be found by multiplying each of their denominators together, like that. Okay, so now for this to make an equivalent fraction, the denominator had been multiplied. If you compare this denominator to the equivalent fraction we're trying to form, you can see that the denominator has been multiplied by x minus 2. So for it to be equivalent, we must multiply the numerator by x minus 2 as well. Similarly, for the second fraction, if we compare the denominators, you can see that the denominator has been multiplied by x plus 1, so we have to multiply the numerator also by x plus 1. Okay, and now that we've made the common denominators, we can combine them together. So we'd have a x minus 2 plus b x plus 1 all over our common denominator x plus 1 x minus 2. So it's looking quite similar to our original fraction here, the only difference being the numerator. So what we can do is now we can just compare the numerator, because the denominator is exactly the same, so the numerator must also be the same. Now the way we're going to compare this to find out what our a and our b is we're going to compare the x terms with on the left hand side with the x terms on the right hand side, and the x terms and the number terms on the left hand side with the number terms on the right hand side, and that will help us to figure out what a and b is, because they should be the same. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to expand these brackets out. So we have ax minus 2a plus bx plus 1, and to help us make it easier to compare the x terms, we're going to separate out the x terms. So we have an ax and a bx with all the non-x terms. So we have a plus 1 and we have a negative 2a. So comparing that to what we have on the left hand side, comparing the x terms with the x terms here, we can see 8 is equal to a plus b. And comparing the non-x terms, or the number terms, with the non-x terms on the left hand side with the right hand side, we have negative 1 from here is equal to plus 1 minus 2a. That positive sign is a bit redundant, but anyway, if we now try and solve, we can solve this equation to find out what a is, bringing the a terms to the left hand side. Positive 2a is equal to positive 2, a is equal to 1. Now we've got that, we can substitute that into the other equation. So we have a is equal to, now we know a is equal to 1 plus b is equal to 7. Okay, so what that's telling us is, if we take these numbers, a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 7, we're saying that our partial fractions, we can substitute them back in here, and b all the way into here. So we're saying that our partial fractions are a is 1 over x plus 1 plus b is 7, and that was over x minus 2. And that's how we express this fraction as partial fractions.